What if the path to inner peace wasn't about learning more, but about, unlearning almost everything? Today, we're going to dive into the really radical and, let's be honest, sometimes difficult ideas of the philosopher Krishnamurti, who basically challenged us to become a light to ourself.
I mean, just look around. It's incredible what we've achieved. We can go to the moon. We have all of human knowledge right here in our pockets. And yet, as this quote points out, our inner world is still a total battlefield, right? Fear, conflict, sorrow, it's all still there. We've solved for X in countless equations, but we still haven't solved for ourselves. And that really leads to the central question Krishnamurti spent his entire life looking at. I mean, after thousands of years of religion, philosophy, and now psychology, why are we still so fundamentally stuck? Why is the human mind still in such a state of disorder?
So where do we even begin with a question that huge? Well, Krishnamurti's answer is pretty radical. You have to turn your attention inward. He argued that all the chaos we see out there in the world, the wars, the division, the corruption, it's nothing more than a projection, a mirror, of the chaos within each and every one of us.
Think about it. What's our default response to pretty much any problem? We look for an external fix. We want a new political system, a new leader, a new self-help guru, a new ideology. But according to Krishnamurti, this is kind of like trying to fix a car's engine by just washing the windshield. The problem isn't out there.
And this slide, it just lays the whole crisis out, doesn't it? On one side, you have this external world of just incredible progress. On the other, you've got an internal world that's still pretty primitive, trapped in the same old patterns of fear and conflict. Krishnamurti's point is so simple but so profound. We are the world. Our individual mess creates the global mess.
Okay, so if looking for external solutions is a total dead end, what's the alternative? This is where Krishnamurti presents his most challenging idea, and it all begins with the total rejection of external authority.
This right here, this is the foundation of his entire philosophy. Not a guru's light, not a book's light, not some ancient tradition's light, your own. He's saying the only true law, the only real authority you should listen to, has to come from your own direct investigation of reality.
So what does this actually mean in practice? Well, it means you have to stand completely alone, psychologically. It means putting aside what the Buddha said, what your guru said, what your therapist says, and looking directly at your own mind, for yourself, by yourself. It's an incredibly daunting proposal for sure, but for Krishnamurti, it is the only possible starting point for any real freedom.
So this brings us to the path of unlearning. And the very first thing we have to unlearn is probably our most ingrained mental habit, this constant attempt to control our own thoughts.
We all do this all the time. A thought of anger or jealousy pops up, and right away, another part of our mind jumps in and says, "Whoa, I shouldn't think that. I need to control this. I must be peaceful." Krishnamurti calls this part the controller. It's basically a little fragment of thought that has appointed itself as the internal police force.
But hold on. Who is this controller? Is it some higher self, some enlightened part of you? Krishnamurti's answer is really startling. He says no. It's just another thought. One thought is trying to control another thought. So the controller is the thing it's trying to control. And once you see that, you realize there's just this endless, exhausting civil war happening inside our own heads, and it wastes a tremendous amount of energy.
So if control is a trap, what's the alternative? Well, Krishnamurti makes this really crucial distinction between concentration and attention. See, concentration is an act of will, of resistance. You're forcing yourself, building a wall around your focus. But attention is totally different. It's a state of, choiceless awareness. There's no center, no me trying to pay attention. There is just the state of attending.
All right, the next step in this unlearning journey is even more profound. It's all about dismantling this habit of comparison, of chasing ideals, of living in this fantasy world of what should be.
This is a process we all know so well. We experience something we don't like, let's just say anger. That's what is. Instantly, our thoughts invent an opposite, an ideal, peace, and that becomes what should be. And now our entire mental life is this constant struggle to get from the reality of our anger to the ideal of peace, a conflict that, honestly, can never be won.
So here we arrive at another huge insight. When you observe your anger, it feels like there's a you, the observer, looking at this separate thing called anger. But Krishnamurti says this division is a complete illusion. The observer is the observed.
You are not separate from the anger, you are the anger. When you see this directly, the entire conflict of trying to change what is just dissolves.
And this leads to this beautiful paradox. Real order, or what we might call virtue, doesn't come from striving to be good, it comes from giving complete, non-judgmental attention to our disorder. In fully seeing the reality of what is, without trying to change it one bit, order just sort of flowers naturally. It's a living thing.
So, what is the result of all this unlearning? What happens when the mind is no longer at war with itself, no longer trying to control or chase after ideals? This brings us to the culmination of the whole journey: silence.
Think of all that energy that was being wasted on internal conflict. When that's freed up, the mind for the very first time has space. It's not crowded anymore with attachments and fears and the constant chatter of trying to become something else.
And we're not talking about the dead silence of suppressing your thoughts or that temporary quiet between two noisy thoughts. This is a silence that just arises, all on its own, when the noise of the self, the controller, the observer, the seeker, has finally ended.
And for Krishnamurti, this silence is the most potent state of being. It's not an empty void. It is the summation of all energy. It's a mind that is finally, supremely alive, fresh, and actually capable of seeing what is true.
And that's where we'll leave it, with a question that really contains this entire journey. What happens when the mind is no longer divided against itself? When there is no me looking at life, but only life itself, just observed in complete silence and attention? That, perhaps, is the beginning of a truly new consciousness.